When we started this podcast, it seemed like we had to figure it all out on our own. Scripts, setup, filming schedule, logos. It was super overwhelming, and every day seemed to introduce a new decision that needed an answer. When you're starting off with something new, it seems like your to-do list keeps growing every day with new tasks, and that list can easily begin to overrun your life. Finding the right tool that not only helps you out, but simplifies everything can be such a game changer. For millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names like Allbirds and Gymshark to brands just getting started. Get started with your own design studio. With hundreds of ready-to-use templates, Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store to match your brand's style. Accelerate your content creation. Shopify is packed with helpful AI tools that write product descriptions, page headlines, and even enhance your product photography. Get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you. Easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/ranks. Go to shopify.com/ranks. That's shopify.com/ranks.
If you're like us, undiagnosed with moderate to severe obstructive sleep apnea or OSA in adults with obesity,
you're blissfully unaware of the breathing interruptions and the
that may happen during sleep.
You're more than the symptoms you've been ignoring.
daytime sleepiness, fatigue, irritability,
they shouldn't be getting in the way.
It's time to address OSA.
Head on.
Learn more at don'tsleeponosa.com.
This information is provided by Lilly USA, LLC.
Traditions are a game changer. Traditions have the power to turn a simple moment into a memory. Bring a whole city together. And they're even what inspires us at Tostitos to make our masa the traditional way. Starting with whole corn kernels. No artificial flavors, colors, or preservatives. We craft our chips for whatever your tradition is. Tostitos. Tradition matters. Official chip and dip sponsor of the NFL.
On Deck is built to back small businesses like yours. Whether you're buying equipment, expanding your team, or bridging cash flow gaps, On Deck's loans up to $250,000 help make it happen fast. Rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau and earning thousands of 5-star Trustpilot reviews, On Deck delivers funding you can count on. Apply in minutes at OnDeck.com. Depending on certain loan attributes, your business loan may be issued by On Deck or Celtic Bank. On Deck does not lend in North Dakota. All loans and amounts subject to lender approval.
Dougie.
Sam.
Liverpool broke records during this summer in an attempt to build an all-star team set for long-term dominance. But the early performances have been seriously underwhelming. What is going on at Anfield? What has happened to the Reds?
In the last week, losses to Crystal Palace, Galatasaray, and of course Chelsea as well.
They're really poor defensively. They really are poor defensively. They're yet to find a balance. And Van Dijk and Canate, they're looking very, very shaky. They've got no protection whatsoever.
Mostly the football issues right now are combining to create this sort of fog, basically, and a team that just doesn't look right.
I don't want to say that Liverpool are in crisis because I don't think they are, and I think the problems that they have are solvable. But at the moment, right across the pitch, there are problems.
This is certainly a mini crisis because of the way that they're playing. They haven't been at it all season.
Yes, hello everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Truth, your Friday companion. Episode 6 of the season, Dougie. In the midst of another international break, it's the perfect time to take stock of one of the biggest budding Premier League storylines. But first, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Sam. I'm good, thanks. Yeah, I had a little bit of a drop back down to reality after a heady start for Sunderland at the weekend. Although I was saying to Jack before we started recording, I was surprised to be so disappointed that Sunderland lost at Old Trafford. But we did lose pretty comfortably. Robin Roos did his best, but we didn't really show up as we had in our previous games. But yeah, back down to reality. But what I realised I haven't asked you, which we used to do during the intros of all our podcasts last year, what's going on with the Detroit Lions?
Oh!
Yeah.
Wow, what a welcome surprise. This genuinely wasn't planned. Both of the teams that I support are on 4-game win streaks, Dougie. Aston Villa and the Detroit Lions. A lovely symmetry.
I know far less about the Detroit Lions. What's kind of the story of their season so far?
We lost on the opening weekend to Green Bay, and it looked like we might be awful, but now we're absolutely decimating teams. Absolutely decimating teams.
Trending in the right
and it looks like we might be quite good. Look, early season in the NFL, the adage goes, you don't want to play your best football in October, you want to play your best football in January. So for the top teams, it's about just putting wins on the board however possible. And you can see that across the league. The Lions are doing it, the Eagles are doing it. The Chiefs aren't doing it, which is really strange.
I know that.
And the Ravens have completely fallen apart due to injuries. So no determinations yet, no conclusions being drawn. But for now, very happy.
Well, since we fixed Aston Villa on that podcast a couple of weeks ago, real turnaround there as well.
I know, not bad, huh? 4 wins in a row. People keep trying to tell me it's 2 because it's 2 Premier League wins, but it's 4. You can't take the European wins away from us. Being final was good as well.
Yeah.
In the end, it was a good performance. So, yeah, not bad at all. Who should we fix next?
Well, I mean, Liverpool is the topic of the day. I don't know whether fixing is quite the right word, but they're definitely having some teething problems, aren't they, Sam?
They definitely are, yeah. Before we go any further, let me just introduce the Overlord, the podcast Overlord.
He loves it.
I love it.
It's a wry grin there. Jack, hello, my friend.
Yeah, hello Sam, how are you?
Very well, very well. I have a question for you.
Is it the New York Jets are not playing their best football in October? Because I can tell you they're not.
So the Jets are 0-5.
0-5, the only team.
The only team in the league that have yet to win a game.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, funnily enough, my question is, what's worse, watching Fulham or watching Ireland? But I guess what's worse, watching Fulham, watching Ireland, or watching the Jets?
I think the answer is still Ireland. I don't have any expectation when it comes to the Jets. Like, this is what the Jets do.
Yeah.
So that's like slightly different. Fulham are okay. It's just that we seem to have a real capitulation in us at the moment. But with Ireland, it's just constantly god awful. So fingers crossed. So big test for my marriage coming up.
Ooh,
First big test.
Yeah.
Ireland play Portugal on Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Massive.
Yeah.
That could be interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, not great, Sam. Not great.
Okay. Okay, fine. But is it at least a good time for an international break for Fulham?
It's a good time for an international break for Fulham. The problem is that when it gets to an international break, I have to watch Ireland.
Yeah.
So, there's never a good time for an international break for me.
For
in
Jack,
many ways.
For Jack, yeah.
So, alas, we are where we are. Perhaps this time it will be different, which is something that they say about the Jets.
For sure. Dougie, same question really. Is it a good time for an international break for Sunderland?
Yes, but then I look with massive trepidation about our fixtures after the international break. We've got Wolves at home, which is pretty lovely to get back into it. Yeah. Then we play 6 of our next 8 games are against sides currently in the top 8. And then it's the derby versus Newcastle. And then we've got a hellish rest of December as well. So this is like Sunderland's really bleak time in terms of fixtures. And then AFCON comes in January. So strap yourselves in, guys. We've enjoyed the ride so far at the top, or near the top, let's say. But we could be heading down towards the lower mid-table in the next few weeks, I would have thought.
Maybe. All depends on how you react to that loss, because you put together a nice run of form, and it's kind of, once you get momentum in this league, it's quite easy to feel good about yourselves, and there's always those cliches about there's a good zip in training and all that. It's all true though, particularly when you have someone like Granit Xhaka in the building. A lot of the players recently have been talking about how important he's been. But in this league, it's all about how you react to losses. And there probably was a bit of expectation going into the Old Trafford game, wasn't there? I certainly thought that you might be able to pull something off based on the form. Didn't happen. Let's see what happens next. I'm in 2 minds about Villa on the international front. On the one hand, if you win 4 in a row, clearly you have momentum and you don't really want that to be broken up. But on the other hand, managing a few injuries already and absences, like Jadon Sancho's been ill for a week and a half. No one knows where he is. Onana's been injured, Tielemans has been injured, Mings is injured. So it'd be nice to get some players back and fit. And also, it's really important for someone like Harvey Elliott to get 2 weeks on the training pitch with Unai Emery, because he needs to adapt to the style of play, and there's a lot for him to learn. So the quicker we can get Elliott into the team, the better it will be for everyone. But that doesn't happen unless he's got the reps in with Emery. So an international break is really good for someone like Harvey.
Absolutely, and we will shortly get on to Liverpool, but in the WhatsApp group this week, you've been talking about one man and one man only, and that's Bogard.
Lamar Bogard.
Do you want to give him a little shout out on the pod?
Well, since Jack threatened to cancel the entire podcast when I pitched the idea that Lamar Bogard is the new Rodri, and it would be this week's episode, I guess maybe I can give him 30 seconds.
Yeah, go on.
look, he's clearly not the next Rodri, but it's just pleasing that, like, with Villa having such problems recently in the transfer market and with the budgets and, you know, freeing up all this money and SCR and PSR and everything and everyone and all the player swaps, that a player can just kind of come through from the academy, albeit stolen from Feyenoord at 17, and just emerge into a really handy player. Like, it's just perfect for a club like Villa at the moment. And the really amusing thing about Bogard at the moment, which is something I'm quite into, is that he has effectively taken on the traits of lots of other Aston Villa players, which is really cool to see. Like, it's a testament to development and growth. It's a testament to surrounding, and it's a testament to coaching, which I think a lot of managers just can't be bothered with anymore. Like, not to just call him out immediately, but like when Levi Colwill went down, Enzo Maresca wanted another signing. And I'm like, you just signed Joel Hatto and you have about 6 other centre-backs. Have you tried maybe coaching any of them to make them better? That would be in your remit, wouldn't it? And so for Emery to bring Bogard along very steadily, he's probably at about 1,000 minutes now. He's nicked the way Konsa wins fouls. He's stolen that. He's stolen the way McGinn protects the ball. And he has taken a lot of positional traits from Boubacar Kamara. And Bogard's ability to play centre-back, centre-mid and right-back is already really obvious. And at the weekend, he played all three at the same time, just in the same way that Boubacar Kamara does. I just found it really fun to watch. Like, it's like a little mini-me, you know? Like a mini Kamara. Nowhere near as good, obviously. But good to see. It's cool.
I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear it. But we might as well get into the big topic of today's podcast, which is Liverpool. In terms of why we're talking about it, it's fairly obvious. They won their first 8 games of the season, but they've lost their last 3, all in the space of 7 days. There was that 2-1 defeat away at Crystal Palace, a 1-0 defeat away at Galatasaray, and a 2-1 defeat away at Chelsea. The winning goal at Palace was scored in the 97th minute by former Arsenal striker Eddie Nketiah. The winning goal at Chelsea was conceded in the 95th minute. And there's nothing like conceding a last-minute goal to really dampen the mood around a club and to make people kind of panic. And we've seen a fair amount of that on social media in the last few days, despite the fact that Liverpool are now just 1 point behind Arsenal at this early stage. The Champions League table, it's so early to even take too much from it. But, you know, there's so much time to recover there as well. But for the first time in his Liverpool career, Arne Slot is under a little bit of pressure, especially given the fact that in the summer, they spent the biggest outlay ever recorded in English football history. So there will be questions asked about it, Sam. Yeah, just a couple of stats to throw in here as well. Liverpool have just lost 3 games in a row for the first time since 2023, which doesn't sound that long ago, but at the same time, clubs like Liverpool don't tend to lose 3 games in a row. So it's quite a hefty time span. And it's also 3 losses in a row for Arne Slot. And I believe it's the first time in his career that he has lost 3 games in a row. So interesting. It's just like we mentioned earlier with Sunderland, like how do you respond to the loss at Old Trafford and the loss of momentum, and how does that change the dynamic? Well, you know, for Liverpool and especially for Slot, this is pretty much uncharted territory over the last couple of years. And for him in his entire career, he's never faced rebounding from 3 losses. I don't want to make it too dramatic and too big a thing because losses happen, but like it's new territory. It's going to be interesting to see. And probably what hasn't helped him here is there was a really catchy headline this week. Did you see? I don't know.
Where he was talking about how when he came in, he had benefited from Jurgen Klopp's tenure and that was no longer happening. Now, the actual quotes and what he was actually talking about was very, very reasonable. He was talking about, first of all, Klopp had coached a hell of a group of players, so he benefited from that immediately. He was also talking about how he perhaps benefited from the fact that Liverpool's finishes in the last seasons before that, they dropped off, right? And people had underestimated Liverpool. They thought, the post-Klopp era is going to be really tough. Who's this guy? First Premier League game. They're not going to be as good. And he thinks he preyed on that and was able to take advantage of people not taking Liverpool seriously enough. And now that is not the case. Reigning champions had the league wrapped up by March. You can't second guess this team. And he's not benefiting from that anymore. That's all completely reasonable, isn't it? But of course the headline is Slot no longer benefiting from Klopp. You can see how it gets written and twisted. And I just thought, tough timing on that.
Yeah, it's quite an admission, isn't it? And, you know, it is completely right. I mean, Liverpool finished third the season prior to him taking over. They were 9 points behind City. They were 7 behind Arsenal. They'd actually been top at the start of April that year, that final year under Klopp. But they only won 4 of their final 9 games. They lost to Palace and Everton. They drew with United, West Ham and Villa. In comes Arne Slot, and he wasn't the favourite as well, which I think is worth noting. They wanted Xabi Alonso. He decided to stay at Bayer Leverkusen another season. And eventually Arne Slot comes in, and a lot of people that don't take much interest in European football went sort of, Arne who? Who is this guy? Is he good enough for the league? And it's also worth bearing in mind that Klopp is an absolute icon of Liverpool. He took them from a fairly mediocre side and had a challenging first year or so, although the style of play was definitely getting rapidly better. But he finished in the top 4 in 7 of his 8 seasons, despite not having anywhere near the spending power as lots of the rivals. Won a Premier League and FA Cup, 2 League Cups, reached 2 Champions League finals, also won a Champions League final, so reached 3 Champions League finals as well. And at the time of his departure, only Kenny Dalglish had a better win percentage of all Liverpool managers. He was also one of the biggest personalities that English football has ever seen. Slot arrives, and that summer doesn't go to plan at all. They don't sign Zubimendi. They only sign Chiesa and Mamardashvili. Mamardashvili stays another year at Valencia. Chiesa was very much a bit part player last year. He missed 14 games with injury. He only played 104 league minutes all season.
He was a punt, wasn't he, really? It was an end-of-window punt. Now, we've got a bit of spare cash, didn't buy Zubimendi. Why don't we have a look at Chiesa? You never know what he might get back to. And I supported the idea. It was a small fee. Wages aren't super cheap, but it was worth a punt. Remember what Chiesa was at the Euros?
Well, exactly. And he looked very much sort of a player quite low on confidence, but they also had so many forward options last year, which we'll come on to during the course of this podcast. But actually, he's played significantly better this season than he did last season, in my opinion. But Liverpool had a phenomenal year last year. 1 defeat in their opening 30 games against Nottingham Forest at home. They racked up a 12-point lead, and Slot was breaking all sorts of records. He was the first Premier League manager to win their first 6 away games, quite an achievement, the quickest manager to reach 15 wins in all competitions, and the first Liverpool manager to win 11 of their first 12 matches at the start of the season. Their results in the cup competitions didn't quite go their way. They obviously lost in the Carabao Cup final against Newcastle. They were knocked out of the FA Cup by Plymouth, knocked out of Europe by eventual winners PSG. But in terms of his biggest achievements of the season, it was clearly getting the best season out of Mo Salah's career, and there have been numerous top seasons to choose from. The reinvention of Ryan Gravenberch, who'd only started 12 league games the previous season, turned into an elite number 6, started 37 league games. He also got the best out of Luis Diaz on the left-hand side, got the best out of Cody Gakpo on the left-hand side. And there were numerous other success stories as well. I think
also him just finding solutions as well, like deploying Luis Diaz as a striker for about a 10-game stretch. Because they didn't really have anyone up front that they could trust, and it just worked. You know, dovetailing with Salah and using basically a false 9, just dipping in and out of that tactic. It's not easy to do.
Absolutely.
He managed to do it.
And a lot of Liverpool fans that I've spoken to in the last few days say that was probably Van Dijk's best ever season as well. The midfield of Gravenberch, McAllister and Szoboszlai that hadn't really worked together that effectively in the final Klopp year became this absolute force, this tour de force in Slot's first. And yeah, they won the league at a counter despite a late sort of, you know, as it happens often with these runaway leaders, kind of a late losing of momentum, let's say.
Yeah.
But Sam, going into this summer, I don't think anyone quite expected what happened on the transfer front.
No, not at all. Look, they were going to, I guess they sensed an opportunity here with Man City still in flux. And maybe they were just looking to stay ahead of Arsenal, because Arsenal clearly is starting to rear its head as a serious challenger. Went very close 2 years in a row and not going away, right? Built a very sustainable platform of a team with some really, really good players, only getting stronger. You have to spend to keep up, and so Liverpool did it. I am going to leave this section to you, though, because I know that your favourite thing in life is to start just listing off transfer business. So I will leave this to you, because it's a hell of a list. But let's start with who went out.
Okay, who went out? I mean, they sold Darwin Nunez. Luis Diaz went to Bayern Munich. More on him later. Jarl Kwanzaa, who barely featured last season after getting substituted at half-time, I think, at their opening game against Ipswich.
1,300 minutes in the league. It's not horrendous, but I agree. He came off half-time in Ipswich and then wasn't seen again for like 3 months in the league.
It did take quite a while. Yeah. Ben Gannon-Doak went to Bournemouth.
This is my favourite development.
The change of name.
The change of name.
Yeah.
This is brilliant.
Jamie Bino-Gittins-esque.
Yes, but only because Ganon is just like obviously the big villain in the Zelda games.
I didn't know this.
Ganon has a real cultural element for me, and Ben Ganon Doak just makes him sound like a dark demonic force that's coming to get you, which is. Yeah, it's pretty apt for a very skillful winger.
Absolutely. He looks like he's got a big future ahead of him. Kelleher obviously went to Brentford to replace Flecken, who went over to the Bundesliga. Trent left. More on him later. Tyler Morton also left. So they spent...
Harvey Elliott left.
Harvey Elliott left on loan, of course. I was just thinking of permanent ones, but yeah, well pointed out. So they did spend £415 million, but... their net spend was £228 million, which was actually 20 million less than Arsenal's, who are not good sellers of players.
Before we go into the incomings here, just to point out as well that obviously unexpected, Diogo Jota passed away, which created, I mean, a very, very difficult atmosphere for the club to work in during the summer anyway. Enough about like the drama of all the incomings and the sagas, like adding Jota's untimely passing to the mix made it all the more difficult, and the squad building exercise took on a very different shade, which was very regrettable. But I added up all the minutes that these players that you've just mentioned played, and then added Jota to it too. Last season, 14,469 minutes in all competitions for Trent, Kelleher, Kwanzaa, Diaz, Morton, Darwin, Ganon Doak, Elliott and Jota. And then, because they've tried to replace Robertson with Kirkes, Robertson played 3,321. So it's 14,500 minutes without Robertson, 17,790 minutes played with Robertson. All those, that's a lot of minutes. And they've just been taken out of the team, which I think goes some way to explaining how much of a rebuild or a revolution this squad has actually undergone. It does a nice job of painting just how different. When you take that many minutes out of a team like that, it's incredible in terms of a shift.
Well, exactly. I mean, their 6 most used players from last season were Salah, Van Dijk, Gravenberch, McAllister, Konate and Alisson. They're all still at the club. You imagine they'll be... well, maybe not Konate given his current form, but they'll be stalwarts of this campaign as well. But you're right, Szoboszlai was ranked 7th. He's now been moved position to play a lot of his games as a right back. Robertson was 8th. Luis Diaz, 9th. He left for Bayern Munich. 10th was Trent. 13th, Diogo Jota. Sadly, devastatingly no longer with us. 14th, Nunez. 15th, Kelleher. 16th, Tsimikas. So what I'm saying is that although the core remains, the kind of supporting act around which the core thrived last season has basically all changed this year. And it's led to a huge sort of uncertainty in every facet of their game. But there'll be a lot of people saying, oh, why are you playing the violin for Liverpool? Because they spent £415 million.
They did spend a lot of money on the following players.
Yes.
Jeremy Frimpong, 30 mil. Milos Kirkes, 40 mil. Giovanni Leone, 26 mil. Ekitike, 69 million and rising. Florian Wirtz, 100 million plus a potential 16 million. Would have been a potential British record. Forget that conversation because Isak cost in the end 125 million, which is an outright British record. This is a lot of money, and it is on, Frimpong, Kirkes, Ekitike, Wirtz, Isak. 5 intended starters, key starters, with Leone as a backup. And add in the fact that Isak took 3 months. They stole Ekitike off Newcastle. They had Mark Gay in a kit, in a photo shoot, and then it fell through. Whew. It was dramatic.
I never knew he was in a photo shoot.
I think he'd done all of his media duties.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, that is savage.
A full-on João Palhinha in Munich.
Yeah. In terms of how they could afford it, because a lot of people were sort of questioning this in the summer, across 2020-21 to 24-25, so the last 5 previous seasons prior to this summer, Liverpool's net spend was £252 million. That was only 8th in the Premier League. In that time, Chelsea's was over 700, Man United's around 550, Arsenal's was 468. Liverpool's was only £32 million more than Forest in that time period, and it was £200 million less than Spurs's. So they hadn't actually spent that much money in the previous 5 years, despite the fact, and then gone on, I should say, to win a Premier League title, an FA Cup, 2 League Cups, and reach a Champions League final. So they'd had a lot of revenue coming into the side. The side had really thrived, and they'd kind of built success off a number of players and a number of transfers that really hit the jackpot for a long, long time.
Yeah, I mean, when you sign Salah and he just hits it off and then just does it again and again and again and again. And you sign Alisson and he's just perfect, apart from the injuries, again and again and again. And Virgil van Dijk works out to the degree it does, and you pluck one of the best passers the world has ever seen from your academy and play him at right back. And Robertson cost like £7 million from Hull and is stuck around for 10 years. I mean, when your hit rate is that good, you don't end up having to enter the market too often because you retain your key players and they do the business for you. They've only really had to start acting post Mane and Firmino. And once Henderson and Fabinho had started to phase out, but those players were fixtures in the team for 6 or 7 years at a time. Maybe not Fabinho quite that long, but a very important player. So they had the liberty of not having to buy too many players for quite a long time, which is great. But then, of course, add that to the fact that they're able to sell Jarrell Quansah for so much money and Tyler Morton for a decent wedge and Kelleher and even Elliott, really, because they paid a tribunal fee of, Jack, 6 million, something like that, from Fulham in the end.
Yeah, they paid a tribunal fee of not enough.
Yeah, not enough. Yeah, not enough money.
And
something like that.
And they've gone and they've shipped him off to Villa now for 35 or 40 million or so. So, hey, the numbers work if you can play the game. Liverpool play the game better than just about anybody. But look, they did surgery on the squad this summer.
Massive.
Surgery on a title-winning squad. It's rare. They obviously sensed an opportunity to go out and get 5 or 6 players that they thought would be pieces, would be their next Alissons, their next Van Dijks, their next Salahs, and fair play. But in the interim, Arne Slot has ended up with a very different looking team, a lot of different things to put together, a very jumbled jigsaw, really. And he looks like a man who's really struggling to put it all together and make it work, right? So there have been a lot of problems in this team.
When we started this podcast, it seemed like we had to figure it all out on our own. Scripts, setup, filming schedule, logos. It was super overwhelming, and every day seemed to introduce a new decision that needed an answer. When you're starting off with something new, it seems like your to-do list keeps growing every day with new tasks, and that list can easily begin to overrun your life. Finding the right tool that not only helps you out, but simplifies everything can be such a game changer. For millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names like Allbirds and Gymshark to brands just getting started. Get started with your own design studio. With hundreds of ready-to-use templates, Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store to match your brand's style. Accelerate your content creation. Shopify is packed with helpful AI tools that write product descriptions, page headlines, and even enhance your product photography. Get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you. Easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/ranks. Go to shopify.com/ranks. That's shopify.com/ranks.
This is the soundtrack of the millions undiagnosed with moderate to severe obstructive sleep apnea, or OSA, in adults with obesity. It's a chronic condition where the airway partially or fully collapses during sleep, which may cause breathing interruptions and oxygen deprivation without your knowing. Don't sleep on the symptoms. Talk to your doctor about OSA and learn more at don'tsleeponosa.com. This information is provided by Lilly USA, LLC.
Need to restock inventory, cover seasonal dips, or manage payroll? OnDeck's small business line of credit provides immediate access to funds, up to $200,000, exactly when your business needs it. With flexible draws, transparent pricing, and full control over repayment, you can tackle unexpected expenses without missing a beat. Apply today at OnDeck.com, and funds could be available as soon as tomorrow. Depending on certain loan attributes, your business loan may be issued by OnDeck or Celtic Bank. OnDeck does not lend in North Dakota. All loans and amounts subject to lender approval.
What I'm going to do now is I'm going to run us through the 11. I want to go through like literally the team, and we're going to point out all the problems.
Go for it.
Because especially for non-Liverpool fans, it's probably quite a valuable exercise because they wouldn't necessarily have realised that all of these things are afflicting the team at the same time. But it also does a really nice job of pointing out just how many problems there have been in the space of 2 months. So not all the players will have issues, and that goes for the goalkeeper, Alisson, who has been great, except that he is once again injured. which is very frustrating. But Alisson has had a fantastic start to the season, no doubt about it. The problems start at the next position, which is right back. They've used 3, which is never a good sign, right?
No, absolutely not. I mean, this was the kind of signing that I think most people questioned in the summer in Jeremy Frimpong. If you're not going to change your system, because Jeremy Frimpong is a phenomenal right wing back. That is where he thrived for Bayer Leverkusen. He probably, along with Denzel Dumfries and potentially Hakimi, you could play Hakimi anywhere really, and he'd be absolutely magnificent. But he was probably the outstanding right wing back in the world over the last couple of seasons. But he's not necessarily a right back, and he's barely been used so far this season. And look, Conor Bradley is a brilliant player, still learning his trade, but has had, you know, top moments, particularly last year as well. And then Szoboszlai, because of the introduction of Wirtz as a 10, has been used often at right back and actually has done a pretty good job there. But there has, without doubt, not been very much consistency in that position.
There's been no consistency at all. Look, Frimpong did sustain a hamstring injury, which has definitely hurt his ability to settle into the team. And that's the last thing he needed, considering he was converting positions, basically. We all pointed it out in the summer. He hasn't played right back, as in right back, for several years, probably since maybe at the very start of the Leverkusen career. But he's, you know, I always say this about players: if they've changed positions and blossomed, it's for a reason, right? It's not they won't be the same player if you move them back to where they were necessarily. So there was always going to be some adjustment there. I think Conor Bradley's had a really tough start to the season, but he's had a bit of a wipeout 2025 with injuries anyway. So it was always a bit much to ask him to really hit the ground running, especially in the shadow of Trent. Szoboszlai's been by far the best right back at Liverpool this season. He's been incredibly, surprisingly good at things like tracking men to the back post, cutting out passes into the winger across on the switch. A lot of like the fundamental fullback things that there's just no way he does in training or on a daily basis that he's just got. I can't believe how good he's been. I genuinely can't believe it. And it's been a bit of a saving grace, because if it wasn't him, they would have been in even more trouble. Now, on the left side, Milos Kerkez has had a really bad start. But I feel a bit sorry for him, because I think he's been badly misprofiled. He's been asked to tuck in as the temporary back 3 and build up half the time and become the left centre-back, which is what Robertson did last season, and play possession football, which he can't do. Like, we've all seen Kerkez run up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down over and over again, right? He's energy, he's stamina, he's aggression, he's getting into the box, and he's crossing. He is not a build-up guy, and he was initially played as that player, which I just thought was very odd. I don't know why you would do that to him.
Yeah, he's also had some pretty challenging individual games as well. I think he was pretty good in the Community Shield against Crystal Palace, at least in the first half. But I remember that game against Burnley, he gets booked for diving, and then he makes a pretty cynical foul on the halfway line, nearly gets sent off, and Slot just goes, nah, we've got to get this guy off.
He's taken him off multiple times for that.
Yeah, and then Andy Robertson comes on, and Andy Robertson last year was almost quite timid in the way he played compared to his usual sort of rampaging best. But Andy Robertson was amazing against Burnley in that sort of cameo. And I thought, Robertson's just going to start from now on. For the next few games, let Kerkez really sort of ease into this. But he's been back into the starting 11. And if I was Arne Slot, I think there's a few areas that you could instantly improve, but I think giving Andy Robertson a run of games is probably one of them.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough on Kerkez. I don't hold him fully responsible here. Like, I'm not his biggest fan, and Jack can back me up on that. I've been a bit of a doubter at times, but I am not willing to put this all at his door. No, that's not fair.
No, I also think that there is an element of this which is slightly different in that he has had some really bad games, and there have been some games where he's looked very, very out of his depth. There have also been some pretty solid games, and actually there's been a couple of performances that I'm like, oh, okay, that's working out quite nicely there. So I agree with you that Kerkez hasn't had the easiest start, but I think rather than being like, hey, it's been dreadful, it's been very, very up and down, because there have been some really, really good performances in amongst some of the bad bits. They often don't get highlighted quite as much, I think, as the ones, especially when you spend, this kind of fee on a player. Yeah. There's always going to be an expectation, that's fine, but it hasn't been as kind of like consistently bad as perhaps some people are making out, is probably what I would add.
That's fair. Probably because the depths have been very bad. Like when you get taken off on a yellow in like 57th minute or something, that's like, it just looks horrendous, and it's just like there's no way to dress it up. So
there's been a little bit of chat about this about Baleba, right, at the start of this season as well. Been hooked a couple of times after silly fouls and making another one, and people are like, oh, they were charging 100 million, now it'll be worth 30. I was like, no, that's just not how this works. It's just a young player kind of working it out a little bit. It will be fine. So I think Kirkes will get there as well.
Yeah.
This is just a little bit, he's probably slightly more exposed and asked to do a little bit more defensive work than he was at Bournemouth in terms of being asked to fly forward. I think this is a natural process of acclimatizing in many ways. I don't have any huge long-term worries about Kirkes.
No, but when you add it to all of the other issues, it's just kind of compounded it all for Liverpool. We'll keep moving through the team. Go to the centre backs. Virgil's been fine. Took a lot of flack for the Caicedo goal at the weekend. Not totally convinced.
It's just because he got in a funny position and people like to make memes.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Van Dijk has never in his life closed that runner down. Like, if we've all been watching Virgil for the last 7 years, right? He never, ever, ever jumps out of the line and closes down Caicedo. And I fundamentally believe that he thinks that if he gives the goalkeeper a clear sight on that shot, 98 times out of 100, he will save it. And it just so happens that Caicedo put a really special strike into the corner, which Mamardashvili actually got a little hand to as well. It was quite close. So, look, we're not here to discuss that.
Just on that point, quickly, I remember we did a shoot with Sky at Newcastle, and it was specifically with Dan Burn when he was really thriving in that, I think it was about February last year, and everyone went Dan Burn crazy. Anyway, we did a shoot with him, and he was saying that that's a specific instruction from Eddie Howe as well to his centre-backs. Kind of to let people shoot unless it's in a really, really dangerous position and back your goalkeeper. And you've seen how good Newcastle's defence has been for years. So it's not anything to worry about too much.
Give the goalkeeper a clear line of sight on a shot, and you're just and don't get in the way, don't deflect it, don't block his sight. There's logic to it. Anyway, Virgil's been fine. In fact, I think there's been a couple of occasions already this season where Virgil was played brilliantly to hold things together. Konate, on the other hand,
wow, really difficult. I think he started really, really badly.
Yeah.
Maybe had a better couple of games after that, and then in the last few weeks as well.
At Gala, he just crumbled.
Yeah, wasn't good against Galatasaray, wasn't good against Crystal Palace as well, and so many of the problems seem to be coming down that channel between him and Szoboszlai, and he just looks slightly behind the pace. He looks clumsy in possession. I mean, he's never been the most elegant player to watch, especially when he's playing alongside someone who just looks as phenomenal on the ball as Van Dijk. But every part of his game is just suffering right now. And actually, I went into his stats earlier, and it doesn't. This is where stats, particularly with centre-backs, don't tell the full story, because his tackle success rate is above 75%. He's winning the vast majority of his aerial duels. But you only have to watch Konate this season to see he's not playing anywhere near his best.
Yeah, I mean, he basically tripped over the ball at Palace and handed it to Mateta for a one-on-one. I watched him on Saturday, just look across to his left to play quite a simple pass over to Van Dijk and just hammer it into the advertising boards for no reason. And the Galatasaray pitch looked really bad, but there were a couple that he just coughed up straight to the opposition, and everybody's just sat there like, come on, Ibu, you're better than this. He has tended to have little patches in his Liverpool career where he does do this kind of thing, but I don't think they generally last 6 weeks, and they really need this to stop quite quickly. And all the speculation hanging over his head with Real Madrid and the contract, it doesn't help. And when he's playing like this is the sort of thing where fans go, well, you know what, just get rid of him then, that sort of thing. And this is where, Leone's already done for the year with an ACL tear. Absolutely, I'm gutted for him.
Yeah.
And they missed out on Mark Gay in the last second. So this is where those decisions and the way those dominoes fell are starting to look like they might really, really affect Liverpool. We sat here 6 weeks ago on our return, and we were a bit concerned about the depth at centre-back for Liverpool, weren't we? And it's only taken 6 weeks for a lot of this to really come true, because they've got quite unlucky, but this is what happens in football.
Absolutely. And it is the biggest issue in the team right now is how they're defending, for me. Compared to this time last year at the same stage in the league, they've got one fewer win. They've scored the same amount of goals, but they've conceded 7 more. And they've got 3 fewer points, but it could have been far more than that. They have got pretty lucky. And their XG against per game has gone from the second best to the 9th. So that is really pretty concerning. There are 9 sides in the league that have conceded fewer than their 9 league goals. They've kept 2 clean sheets in 11 games in all competitions, which was against Arsenal, which was one of the most boring games of the season, and a 1-0 win against Burnley as well.
Yeah.
And it's the quality of shot that they're conceding as well. So their post-shot XG per shot, which is a little bit of a complicated metric and sounds quite daunting, but basically the quality of shot they are conceding is at 0.37, and only United and Wolves is higher in the entire league. So they are conceding very, very high quality shots, and they also rank 4th for errors leading to shots. And I think Konate has probably been more guilty of that than any other player.
Yeah, probably about half the tally, unfortunately. Well, look, sometimes they do keep clean sheets, and occasionally they play really well. Like against Atletico Madrid, I thought they absolutely destroyed Atletico Madrid, and the fact that that game was remotely close was a bit of a joke. Marcus Llorente's incredible wonder strike ×2 was the only reason that was in contention. And on that particular night, Ryan Gravenberch was absolutely insanely good. And when he is at a 10 out of 10 level, a lot of these defensive problems do tend to go away because Gravenberch is so good in midfield that he can actually save everyone's jobs. Unfortunately, Ryan Gravenberch is just one human being. He's just a man. And he cannot play at a 10 out of 10 level every single time Liverpool take to the pitch. And when he doesn't, and Alexis McAllister plays like he's been playing, oh boy, this midfield looks horrific.
It feels like that Jon Snow meme. One man with a sword against an entire cavalry charge. That feels a bit like Gravenberch at the moment.
Yeah, it's a real shame. And so he's been good, if not amazing. I've got not got a bad word to say about Gravenberch this season, but Alexis is confusing. Now, there were some questions about injuries and fitness issues earlier in the season. He went off to international duty and people weren't sure. He came back and people were still not sure. I mean, at the Chelsea game, he was really poor, like way off the pace. The Caicedo goal is in part because he's failed to clamp down in midfield, but all game long he looked like all at sea. Very easy to bypass. Very low on confidence, it seems like, from a technical standpoint too. What has happened to Alexis?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? I mean, as you'd say, there was some injury issues at the start of the season that might have knocked him a little bit. I think the change in formation, he, more than anyone, hasn't seemed like he's got the confidence to try and find Florian Wirtz in those pockets of space, which he is picking up. And last year, he was kind of, in many ways, the connector between midfield and attack and was so good at it. I thought after probably Caicedo and Rice, probably the league's kind of outstanding midfielder, with Ryan Gravenberch in there as well. But this year, his pass into the penalty area, which is partly down to the role he's playing as well, but they've gone from 1.2 to 0.5, which is a really quite dramatic drop-off. And he hasn't completed a single one of his dribbles. His defensive actions are way down as well. It does feel like, he's probably one of the players whose role and place in the starting 11 should be most under threat, because he has played a lot of football over the last couple of seasons, and maybe he just needs a little bit of a spell outside of the team.
Yeah, maybe. I'm like, if he's not quite fit, then it might be time to shuffle things about a little bit. You mentioned Wirtz there, obviously signed for 100 million plus 16, a lot of expectation, yet to register a goal or assist in the Premier League. I'm just absolutely begging for him to get one here, like just wanting to get off the mark, because you know what one can do for a player. And if that swivelling backheel pass to Salah at Stamford Bridge had resulted in an assist, I mean, God. Salah has become the enemy of football there by not scoring that because he made that wasn't an assist. Just was absolutely amazing. Stepped off the bench, immediate impact, great energy, exactly what you want. But, the expectations are really high for this player because he cost an absolute ton. And it hasn't really happened for him. In and out of the team, played a 10, played a bit of left wing. Slot's trying to figure out his best 11. And by the way, he's moving him in and out of the team. That means that Slot is not convinced that Florian Wirtz is yet in his best team, which is a slightly concerning place to be for a £100 million footballer, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of rival fans complaining that the media are giving him a really easy time. I don't think they are at all, to be honest. I think he's been non-stop talked about pretty much since his third or fourth game. His passes per game, I thought, was the most interesting thing. Have gone from 53 to 36. And we did talk about this on a podcast a few weeks ago with the Bundesliga attacks, that he is showing for the ball consistently. I just think he's looked a little bit slow to react, or the game is just so quick around him. And partly, it has been down to a lot of the teams they've played as well. I think Bournemouth, Newcastle, Galatasaray away, Arsenal. This is not necessarily the easiest run to start as a 10.
Sure, but mate, all the teams in the Premier League are like this now.
Sure, but this is also a squad and a team finding their feet. You've got Szoboszlai behind you. that's playing in a different position. You've got McAllister out of form as well. Gravenberch has missed some games towards the start of the season. I think it's very easy to focus solely on Florian Wirtz. I'd actually be almost putting more intrigue and blame on the form of Mo Salah. And I don't mean to jump around your starting 11.
By all means, go to the right wing next. As I said, we haven't just put it all on Wirtz here. We've just laid into Alexis, we've just laid into Konate, we've laid into Kirkes and all the right backs and slots. So yeah, we're not putting it all on him. But look, Salah, I mean, just not really involved anywhere near enough.
His dribbles per game this year are at the same as Joan Garcia, the Barcelona goalkeeper.
Nice.
0.1.
He's completed one dribble.
Yeah.
In the whole of the Premier League so far.
Really bad. His dribble success rate has gone from 42% to 13%. His shots on target have halved.
Yeah.
His shots have halved. This is a player that, yes, he's got 4 goals and assists in 7 league games, but don't be fooled by that. He is playing the worst football of his Liverpool career. And look, there can be many, many reasons behind that we haven't really touched on in probably enough depth. Like, this is a squad that is going through huge turnover, and they're also dealing with the tragic loss of a teammate, a friend, a colleague, a massive part of a dressing room who they've played with for years. We can't actually know in physical terms what that's going to do to players and what it's going to do to a squad and the way that squad is united, etc.
I mean, that could be a big part of, Alexis and
Absolutely.
his form, and his mental state. Virgil recently did say, he did kind of speak out on this a little bit, and he did kind of lash out at a reporter to be like, you've no idea how difficult it is on the pitch and off the pitch right now. Like, the situation is not easy. It's not simple.
There's a thing here, and I said this on Monday's Patreon on Ranks, at the start of the season, and I appreciate that obviously time passes and therefore, different narratives emerge, and that's fine. Like, that's natural. But think about how much of the first bit of the season and Salah scoring a goal and then standing in front of the cop, tears in his eyes, and how much that was kind of attributed to, they're doing this for Diogo Jota, they're doing this for a teammate, for a friend, all of that. And then as soon as there's a bad run of form, people are like, don't know what's wrong. You're like, yeah. And look, I do think that it's unfair to attribute everything to that. And I don't think you can, at some point you have to be able to not move on. That's the wrong phrase, but you have to be able to put it in the context of what you're doing. They're still going out there, they're still playing. And you can't blame all of it on certain or individual factors, as we're not doing with the whole team thing here. But I do think it was interesting that kind of came out of the narrative as soon as Liverpool started playing badly. When they were playing well, it was all, oh, okay, they're banding together, they're finding it. But as soon as that flipped and, something went against them, that bit seemed to be forgotten. And I thought that was something just worth pointing out.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And you just don't know what kind of effect this is having on the players. And it could be the case with Salah too. Just more specifically on Salah again, I've got my own stats. Well, you mentioned his shots on target have halved. Non-penalty shots this season so far, just to make it clear, 11. 11 shots. Is that it?
Yeah.
Come on, mate. And all of his goals, more or less, have come in the 85th minute or later because he can't find his way into the game before that point. Even on the opening game against Bournemouth, he sort of had to run over to the left wing to pick up the ball to actually get it to go and score. So they're not finding him. Florian Wirtz is not connecting with Mohamed Salah, and Szoboszlai passes to Salah a lot when he plays right back because he's the nearest person. But against Palace, guess how many passes Szoboszlai completed to Mohamed Salah?
Game. 3.
2.
Szoboszlai
played as the 10 for the whole game, and Salah played as the right winger for the whole game, and Szoboszlai completed 2 passes to Mohamed Salah.
I also don't know about you, but when I think of a Liverpool goal from 24-25, there's a lot of Salah brilliance in there for sure. But the Salah back post pass to Gakpo is something that I just can't get out of my head from last season. I just don't feel like we've seen that anywhere near to the same extent this year.
No, actually. And speaking of Gakpo, he's averaging 10 more touches per game than Salah is.
Wow.
Which, by the way, is the wrong way round. Like, it's like, that's wrong. You can't do that. Salah needs to be averaging 10 more touches than Gakpo, right? Or anyone.
Yeah.
Just about anyone apart from, the usuals, Van Dijk and Gravenberch at the centre of the team. It's not okay. But Gakpo's done his usual, he's had a good patch and then he's dropped off. That's kind of what he does. He's probably been more involved than Salah because Ekitike likes to drop over to the left. He likes the left half space. So when the ball goes from probably Gravenberch straight to Ekitike, missing out Wirtz, which is bad, Ekitike drops off to his left. And then who's the closest player? Gakpo. So he brings him into the game. And so Gakpo's off and firing, and he's got loads of involvements and loads of goals, and obviously he's dropped off a bit recently, but started really well with Ekitike. And Salah's like 40 yards over on the side of the pitch with his arms in the air going, guys, anyone? Guys, not involved.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think people, Liverpool fans in particular, were quite vitriolic towards Trent leaving the club. Obviously, it's incredibly painful. He'd made noises that he wanted to stay at the club forever, captioned the club, etc. Left to go to Real Madrid, was speaking pretty perfect Spanish in his press conference. I can understand why they were frustrated. But I think his impact in that side is now fully being seen.
Yes, I would agree with that one.
The way that not only he can connect with Salah, and those connections are vital. We've seen over the last even 2 years since Jurrien Timber has come into the Arsenal side, that White Odegaard-Saka arrangement on that right-hand side pretty much put Arsenal into title contention. Timber, Odegaard, Saka, and there has been injury issues in there as well, hasn't flowed as naturally. Trent, Henderson and Salah played together for years and did so incredibly effectively. Trent, even the way he could flick a ball almost around his marker in to find Szoboszlai or Gravenberch or McAllister, I think they're being marked out of the game way too easily, sort of Liverpool's midfielders, and it's kind of affecting the flow through to Vert and flow to the forward line. I mean, Trent last year wasn't even necessarily his best season, but he was 5th for passes completed in the Liverpool squad last year. He was 2nd for assists, 4th for chances created, crucially 2nd for passes into the final third. And Liverpool don't seem to be able to get into the final third as quickly and as efficiently as they could last year. And it feels like the sides and that they're facing are just way more set defensively. And I think a big part of that is Trent's lack of presence in the side.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very different. I think we're still discovering, but week on week we're realizing more and more how big a loss it actually is, because it's not just a right back, is it? It's I said it earlier in the pod, one of the most talented passers of the ball the world has ever seen, and you've taken him out of the team and then remodeled the entire thing. And as good as Florian Wirtz is, like, obviously the idea is for him to come in and become the fulcrum and the playmaker there, changes and moves up the pitch, but it needs more than 6 to 8 weeks for that to really settle in.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to bring this up. It's something we've talked about a little bit, but point of attack, right? Like as you say, creative fulcrum, lightning rod, whatever you want to call it. That's what Wirtz has been brought in to do, right? But you're shifting your point of attack from a right back who tucks inside and picks the ball up deep to someone who wants to collect the ball far higher up the pitch and get into the final third. And I think the knock-on effect from this has been something that you haven't mentioned, which I think is probably important here, is how slow Liverpool are playing the ball at the back. And part of this is Virgil van Dijk, who stands on the ball a lot. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but actually what we're seeing is a lot of very safe possession, and then Liverpool look for kind of a punt up the field, which isn't what they were doing last season. And last season, they would look for Trent quite early on, get him onto the ball in those areas, and he'd be able to pick that pass to put Liverpool in dangerous situations.
Probably the Diaz switch as well was
on. Exactly. Yeah. Whether that's down the line to Salah, whether it's the switch across to Diaz, or even whether it's into Szoboszlai in that kind of number 10 spot, you had someone who was able to pick those range of passes. And it also meant that Liverpool moved the ball up the pitch pretty quickly. Now, the other option was having Gravenberch kind of turn out of pressure and drive up the pitch. It feels at times that that's Liverpool's only way this season of moving the ball up into the final thirds. And they're really struggling to connect to their new point of attack, in that Florian Wirtz isn't picking up the ball in the areas that he wants to pick it up. Now, by my standards, I think he should have had, I worked it out the other day, I was looking at them, I think he should have had 4 assists, 3 of them for Salah this season already, if you're kind of looking at players who should be putting away their chances. Yeah. And, some of that is his fault, some of it's not, like, et cetera, these things happen. But I do think that Liverpool's main issue is they're not being able to move that creative fulcrum to the new point in their squad with any success in terms of how they're building out. And that, I think, is the question that Arne Slot needs to answer in this international break, how they get the ball into those areas without completely and utterly throwing their structure up in the air, which is what they have done for quite a lot of the first sort of 8-10 games of this season.
When we started this podcast, it seemed like we had to figure it all out on our own. Scripts, setup, filming schedule, logos. It was super overwhelming, and every day seemed to introduce a new decision that needed an answer. When you're starting off with something new, it seems like your to-do list keeps growing every day with new tasks, and that list can easily begin to overrun your life. Finding the right tool that not only helps you out, but simplifies everything can be such a game changer. For millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names like Allbirds and Gymshark to brands just getting started. Get started with your own design studio. With hundreds of ready-to-use templates, Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store to match your brand's style. Accelerate your content creation. Shopify is packed with helpful AI tools that write product descriptions, page headlines, and even enhance your product photography. Get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you. Easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/ranks. Go to shopify.com/ranks. That's shopify.com/ranks.
Cash flow crunch? OnDeck Small Business Line of Credit gives your business immediate access to funds up to $200,000 right when you need it. Cover seasonal dips, manage payroll, restock inventory, or tackle unexpected expenses without missing a beat. With flexible draws, transparent pricing, and control over repayment, get funded quickly and confidently. Apply today at OnDeck.com. Funds could be available as soon as tomorrow. Depending on certain loan attributes, your business loan may be issued by OnDeck or Celtic Bank. OnDeck does not lend in North Dakota. All loans and amounts subject to lender approval.
If low energy, weight gain, or a drop in sex drive are holding you back, testosterone replacement therapy from Henry Meds may help you reclaim your edge. Their TRT treatments are backed by trusted providers who understand men's health. It's 100% online and discreet and includes free labs for a flat monthly fee. Start your journey towards strength and performance. Visit henrymeds.com/TRT to learn more and get $50 off today. Not all patients are eligible. Results may vary. Consult a healthcare provider to determine if treatment is right for you.
You lead us on quite nicely to the next part of the conversation, which is like, what do you do next? Like, how do you fix this? And you're kind of focusing there on how to bring the attack back into function and how to get the new setup with the new playmaker going. To be honest, I focused mostly on how do you fix the big hole in midfield? Because I think that might be an even bigger problem. The fact that you reeled off all the statistics earlier about giving up very high quality chances, and then you watch them and like, how open have they been? Like an injury hit, undercooked Bournemouth gave them a massive, massive scare with Marcus Tavernier in midfield on the opening night. And I thought, they got away with that. It'll be fine next week. And then they had another scare, and then the losses started coming in. And like those last 15 minutes against Chelsea, once you get the ball past Liverpool's front line and past Gravenberch, it's like an ocean of space. And Van Dijk and Konate are pegging it backwards. It was just remarkable watching the Chelsea midfielders run into that. Like, it's way too open structurally. And it's not normal. It's not what Liverpool were last season. I feel like Slot is caught in the middle of some kind of very strange tactical dance with himself. He's really undecided as to what he wants this team to be and whether or not it can work. And from the very start there, I'll say, like, the idea that you can have Kirkes and Frimpong left and right back shuttling up and down the flanks as both of them means that you have to make a sacrifice in midfield.
Yeah, you have to have two holding midfielders. There's no other way around it.
And you have to have Gravenberch probably dropping into the defensive line to make a three to solidify it if you're going to do that, and possibly as well Alexis. Now, he's not really tried that because he's pushed Kirkes into left centre-back and built with a three, which also hasn't worked. And then Frimpong's got injured, so that hasn't worked either. So whatever he's tried there hasn't worked. And then in midfield, I mean, if Gravenberch is breached, Gravenbreach.
Scratchy.
They are so screwed. It's just bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre. So, I don't know, like, I feel like they're trying to attack in this like 4-2-4 at the moment, and it's like, it's not good enough. It doesn't work, and Slot is going to have to tweak it, and he's going to have to take a player out of the attack, and he's going to have to plonk him in the middle. Because if they don't stem the tide of these counter-attacks, like I said to you, all the Premier League teams are built like this. It's all Bournemouth. It's Fulham running through. It's all these teams can do this. They've all got athletic midfielders that can take the ball and just go. Like, what does Morgan Rogers do when he sees 40 yards of space? You know, it's got to be fixed before anything else, I think.
I've got 4 ideas on how to fix it.
4?
And they are more, they ascend in drama.
Oh, good.
Do you want to hear them this is the least dramatic.
Go 4-1.
Okay, 4-1 is just, number 4 was just revert back. Szoboszlai, McAllister, Gravenberch, which is what he tried to do against Chelsea. Bradley gets subbed at half-time for Florian Wirtz and, persist with that. It's what you knew last season. Go back to that. The second idea, if you're lacking control in midfield, the midfielder that is best at controlling a game, not necessarily the most entertaining at points, but the best controller is Curtis Jones. Curtis Jones is phenomenal at keeping hold of the ball.
That's true.
He is 4th in the Premier League for pass completion last season in terms of the percentage, and first amongst midfielders. A 93% completion rate on his passes. That is European right up there. Right up there. That's probably Pedri levels, and Pedri gets through far, far more passes per game. So that'd be my second idea. Maybe Curtis Jones is introduced, Szoboszlai is fixed at right back. The third idea, almost losing track of the amount of ideas I've got.
In at number 2, in terms of drama, is drop Ibrahima Konate and give Joe Gomez a run at centre-back.
Okay. I don't think Arne Slot really rates Joe Gomez.
Well, definitely doesn't. He would have used him by now.
Yeah.
But I'm stunned that Gomez hasn't been given a proper look at this point.
It feels really harsh. He's only ever started 6 league games for Arne Slot, and his injury record in the last couple of years hasn't actually been that bad. He's just not being picked anymore. And he's playing Gravenberch there. He's even played Endo there. I'm not entirely sure why. This one doesn't feel very likely for Slot. But surely, this is a guy that's in 2019-20 was an absolutely crucial part. And admittedly, that was a long amount of time ago now.
This is like when someone the other day asked me, do you think Dominic Calvert-Lewin can get back to his best scoring levels? And I was like, remind me what year that was? 2017?
I just think, and it's a shame that Leone did his ACL, because actually in the game that he did his ACL, he was looking pretty exceptional, admittedly against quite inferior opposition. But still, real shame. Maybe they could have played either Gomez or Leone. It doesn't feel particularly likely, but Konate not playing well at the moment. The most dramatic idea...
If you say drop Salah, I'm going to walk out the studio.
No.
Okay.
is switch formation quite dramatically. You have signed a phenomenal right wing back. You have signed Florian Wirtz, who thrived in that system as well, a 3-4-3 formation.
Here we go.
Could it be worth trying?
Yeah.
And I will read you off the 11 that I've settled on. Alisson in goal, if he's fully fit.
Yeah.
Right wing back, Frimpong. And next to him, Konate. Van Dijk in the middle, Joe Gomez, or potentially even Andy Robertson as a left-sided centre-back, where he has played.
That's where
for Scotland.
And also in Liverpool's build-up, that's exactly where he stands.
Kirkes as a flying left wing-back. Sounds quite nice. In midfield, Gravenberch and for now Szoboszlai. Could be McAllister, but Gravenberch and Szoboszlai. Up front as an inverted right forward, Mo Salah, inverted left forward, Florian Wirtz, and then you can either play Ekitike or Isak in the middle. Do we think this is potentially worth trying for Liverpool right now when they have so little control and haven't looked particularly good in any facet of the game? It's radical.
It's not that radical, because they'll at times resemble a 3-4-3 when they end up building. So
my issue is they don't really have the centre-backs for it, but...
Well, they kind of do. They just don't have any depth.
My solution wasn't drastically different for yours, although it doesn't go to a 3 at the back. It was play a Connor Bradley at right back and kind of tuck him in a little bit more. And then you play the back 2, which they can't really sort of change from right now because that's what they've got. And Slot, as you say, doesn't really trust Gomez. And then you go Kirkes at left back, but you push him forward and you say, go on and get up the pitch. Play Florian Wirtz at left wing, but ask him to come inside into that pocket. It doesn't really matter who you play as the 9 here, whether it's Ekitike or Isak, doesn't hugely matter. I think the Salah should be dropped at the moment, but I don't think that they will. And it's a question I want to ask you both in a minute. But I think Salah stays in there. And then you play Curtis Jones and Gravenberch as the kind of base of midfield with Szoboszlai and that energy in front of them again. I think that sorts out some of the issues in terms of the big hole in midfield. I think it sorts out some of the issues in terms of the way that it's tilting at the back. And it puts Florian Wirtz into a position where, yes, normally he starts on the left wing, but he drifts inside into that area that he likes to occupy.
Salah?
No. The Salah starts. But to be honest, if it was me, I'd start Chiesa. Like, I think that he's shown more hunger, more desire, and has been more energetic in all of his performances. But I don't think Slot will do that. So that's kind of it's a kind of moot point.
It's definitely creating a rod for your own back there. Like in a difficult situation, how do I make this worse? Drop Mo Salah is like the number one way to dig that hole a bit deeper.
But he's been dreadful.
No, I'm completely with you. But from a political standpoint, it's just like it's an absolute no right now.
Can you name a game that Mo Salah's played well in since he renewed his contract?
No, I can't. No. I genuinely can't. I'm just going to go and look at the games he's played recently. Because
did he play all right against Atletico Madrid? I was actually watching the other game.
He was fine, but it wasn't a Salah game. The game against Chelsea at the weekend, where there were so many opportunities for Salah to do what Salah does.
Yeah.
Like it was a game state
yes.
that was actually primed for Mo Salah to take advantage of. And it just felt like he was a million miles off it. It was bizarre.
He cut in to shoot and whip one round into the far post 3 times and missed them all. And I was just like, just not used to seeing it. Just really not used to. Then again, I'm not used to seeing Alexis McAllister just like run over in midfield. I'm not used to watching Ibrahim Konate smash the ball out of play for no reason. There's a lot of spooky stuff going on at Liverpool right now. They're all afflicted and they've got to come through it together. It's very difficult. I like the 3-4-3 pitch. As long as you've got someone somewhere from one of the other lines moving into midfield, because criticise them for having a bit of an open midfield and you've only got 2 players in there. But that you can have Robertson pushing up in, or you can have Wirtz dropping in from the other side. That can easily happen to create a 3. It's the kind of shake-up that I would like to see, but I don't know how far Slot would go with it.
Well, otherwise it just feels like they haven't bought the right fullbacks for a 4 at the back necessarily. And look, you can change it, and it's very early to write off Jeremy Frimpong in terms of his Premier League longevity. But at the moment, speaking to Liverpool fans that I know, they are really, really unimpressed with how he's played. And he actually started at right wing against Galatasaray, and it was really kind of, talking about spooky, it was really weird seeing a right winger get to the byline for Liverpool and then cut it back. He didn't actually play too badly for the first 30 minutes of that game. But yeah, they need to get him in somehow, because this is a real attacking weapon when played in his correct position. And I think he could be a bit of a game changer in the Premier League, as poor as he's been so far.
Yeah, absolutely.
A question for you both. So something that's been brought up to us by a number of our patrons on Ranks has been Slot's stubbornness, shall we say. And when he dropped, and we mentioned it earlier, Jarrell Quansah, at half-time in that first game against Ipswich last season, he was like, Arne Slot, no nonsense, ruthless with his decisions. And to an extent, that was true. But it was quite easy to drop a Jarrell Quansah, I imagine. It's not the same. And this season, when we've seen his favourites, shall we say, in inverted commas, your Konates, your Salahs, your Alexises, have poor performances, there has been no real sign of it. Hakpo and Salah both got 90 minutes against Chelsea, which was inexplicable considering the way that Salah played in that game. And I do wonder if he is a little bit stuck here with, the players that he's relied on last season. He now feels like...
The players that he overplayed last season, by the way, as well. This plays into this.
Yeah.
How many times were we like, give Gravenberch a rest?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Do you remember the games between... They played 2 games against PSG, obviously in the knockouts, the Wednesday and the Tuesday. And in between, they had a game at home to Southampton, the worst team in the league. And he played like 9 of his starters. And we were all just like... Mate,
well, he barely rotated at all.
What are you doing? Why have you played all of these players in this game? This is a gimme.
Surprise! Come April, May, they looked really poor.
And Gravenberch was dribbling the ball out of play and huffing and puffing because he was knackered.
Yeah,
Slot doesn't rotate these players.
But the key point here is that when that kind of narrative that he was this ruthless manager who was willing to drop players and it was a full meritocracy is no longer standing up. And I wonder if there needs to be an element of a reshuffle from his perspective in order to actually start to get this to work. To your point about fullbacks, Dougie, like what I would do if I was Liverpool is, I'd play Frimpong when Robertson was on the other flank. Mm-hmm. I'd play Kirkes when Bradley was on the other flank. Like there are ways around this if you think them through, but to play them together leaves you exposed in all sorts of manners, and that's how it is.
It does, yeah. Someone's having a bad time if they play together. Either the midfielders, because both the fullbacks have gone forward, or one of the fullbacks, because one of them has to tuck in and they're not happy doing it because it's not their position.
It would be nice to mention a positive, because it has been, quite negative.
We've done a few positives.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I think Ekitike, really impressive. Really impressive, especially given it must have been challenging in the summer. You've just got your big move to Liverpool. You're a well-deserved Premier League player now. You're joining the Premier League champions. And then as soon as you join, there is so much noise about Alexander Isak coming in. And he does eventually join for a Premier League record fee. What does that mean for you? People saying you're going to play out on the left, which, he could potentially do, but I don't think it's the most natural move for him. But despite all the noise going on around him and about him being replaced, from the get-go, from the first minute of the Community Shield, he's looked bang at it. And we've talked so many times about Bundesliga forwards taking a while to adapt, sometimes never adapting. Ekitike, 5 goals and 1 assist in 10 games in a challenging side that haven't really found their groove in any facet, as we've already mentioned. Fair play.
Great red card too.
Great red card.
He's been fantastic. We glossed over it because, it's not part of the narrative that we're forming, the evil media. No, you're right. You're absolutely right to pull him up. We got to Salah and Gakpo and then we sort of left the 11, but there was one man remaining, and it is the fantastic Hugo Ekitike. His link-up play has been superb. His hold-up play has been superb. The way he brings his midfielders into the game, links with the wingers, turns, moves, goes. He's already scored a couple of lovely goals. Like, there was the goal that he scored at the end of last season against Spurs, where he ran and then drifted inwards and then in step, low, beautiful strike. I thought, wish I could strike a ball like that. He's already done about 2 more that I think, I just wish I could score that goal. He scores goals that I dream of. He really does. He's brilliant. So well done to him. You're right. Absolutely well done. And, to an extent, his brilliance has kind of kept them afloat a little bit because they've won a bunch of games this year that we've all gone at. And if it isn't for players doing the business when it matters, and whether that's last gasp goals from Salah or Rio, or if it's just someone like Ekitike stepping up and providing a moment of clarity, the wins don't stack up, undeservedly so, unless players like Ekitike hit the ground running and just get it done. And so he's been a genuine saving grace for them early this season, because if he hadn't started well, they'd have half the wins. And this wouldn't be a question, this would be an actual crisis, because they'd have about 6 points and they'd be playing terribly after a £400 million gross spend, and we'd be going mad.
Well, exactly. And also, on sort of Slot, it seems like an obvious point. He has bought himself so much time by winning the title in your first year when no one expected you to, with you being up against it, having not had so much investment in your squad. And look, other factors have to come into that. Arsenal had big injuries, but they also were off it last year. City didn't have Rodri, pretty much fell apart by City standards. But yet you win your title in your first season, becoming just the 5th Premier League manager to do so. And the noise on social media from some Liverpool fans that should know better, I think has gone a step too far at the moment. And they are, despite their level of performance, in a brilliant position. 1 point behind Arsenal after 7 games is really not a disaster. Yep. And yes, losing 3 games in a row, 2 of those were in very dramatic fashion. They could have easily drawn against Palace. They could have easily drawn against Chelsea. I actually thought they were really flat, particularly in the second half against Galatasaray. But it's really not a disaster. So despite the sort of questions and ideas about how to fix them in this podcast, the context of that has to be taken into account, which I think we both have.
Sure, but they lost to Palace, and then Palace lost to Everton. So that makes Liverpool worse than Everton. That's how results work.
That's how it happens, yeah.
That's why the panic. Right, so to sum up, Salah is not involved and playing poorly. Wirtz is struggling to put a stamp on the team. If Gravenberch doesn't play brilliantly, the whole thing collapses. Konate's had a mind melt. Kirkez is being asked to stuff he literally cannot do for some reason. None of the right backs are working, and it turns out Trent was really good.
Yeah.
Is that it? Oh, and Slot's overwhelmed.
And maybe switch to a 5. Mix it up, man.
Maybe switch to a 5. Okay. Well, that is a full discussion on the troubles and travails of Liverpool. A full discussion. Thank you, Dougie.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, Sam. I do think Dougie's point there is important. Like, with all of this said, I trust that Slot works this out. I don't know if it's any of the things that we've suggested or this team finally click or whatever, but they are, as Dougie says, a point behind in terms of the Premier League. And you said right at the top of this podcast, you made a point, you said you don't play your best football in October.
Hell yeah.
You play it, you play it when it comes to the start of the new year, when it comes to the run-in. And I trust Liverpool to have worked it out by that point. And by that logic, if they continue to not play brilliantly, but hang in there and hang in there and hang in there, then I think that this could still be one of those seasons where Liverpool will be there or thereabouts. And, whether that's winning the league, whether they get pipped to it, whatever that looks like is a question. But on the whole, I trust that they will be no lower than second when it comes to the final standings of this Premier League table in May.
There you go. A nice positive spin to end. Look at how many points they've already accrued, and they've been useless. Now imagine what they'll be like when they're good. That's a good one. Exactly. I like it. Thank you very much, Jack. And thank you finally to the listeners. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for watching as well. If you're on YouTube, I guess, head over to Dougie's YouTube channel if you want to watch and listen to the podcast twice, which we all expect you to do.
Double up.
Absolutely. And we'll see you next week.
See you then.
When we started this podcast, it seemed like we had to figure it all out on our own. Scripts, setup, filming schedule, logos. It was super overwhelming, and every day seemed to introduce a new decision that needed an answer. When you're starting off with something new, it seems like your to-do list keeps growing every day with new tasks, and that list can easily begin to overrun your life. Finding the right tool that not only helps you out, but simplifies everything can be such a game changer. For millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names like Allbirds and Gymshark to brands just getting started. Get started with your own design studio. With hundreds of ready-to-use templates, Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store to match your brand's style. Accelerate your content creation. Shopify is packed with helpful AI tools that write product descriptions, page headlines, and even enhance your product photography. Get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you. Easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/ranks. Go to shopify.com/ranks. That's shopify.com/ranks.
On Deck is built to back small businesses like yours. Whether you're buying equipment, expanding your team, or bridging cash flow gaps, On Deck's loans up to $250,000 help make it happen fast. Rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau and earning thousands of 5-star Trustpilot reviews, On Deck delivers funding you can count on. Apply in minutes at OnDeck.com. Depending on certain loan attributes, your business loan may be issued by On Deck or Celtic Bank. On Deck does not lend in North Dakota. All loans and amounts subject to lender approval.